Tonight on Newswire LA, we take a look back at a very busy Oscar movie season. First, we'll take you onto the red carpet just hours before a movie's biggest night kicks off. Then, we'll take you to one of the pre-Oscar events that could have and did predict at least one of the big winners on that night. We're talking about the Scripter Awards. All of this and more coming up right after the credits. Hi, and welcome to Newswire LA. I'm your host, Chin Thomasangsi. Today, we're coming to you from the red carpet of the Oscars here in Hollywood, California. Yes, here we are again. You might remember that 2 years ago we were here as well. Then, just as now, this is a Newswire LA co-production with RichGirlNetwork.tv and Our Joy Paris. You've probably seen a number of reports from Joy over the course of the week from the gifting suites, the various parties, and so on. I have been given the opportunity again to come down here on the red carpet and show you what's going on. This, I must say, is actually my favorite part of the Oscar ceremony. Not necessarily the ceremony itself, not necessarily the parties, the gifting suites, but I enjoy being down here on the ground, watching the setup, the construction, all of the building that's going on. So take a walk with me as we go down the red carpet of the 2014 Oscar ceremony. One of the biggest stories today is the weather, and in fact, it's probably the one story that's overwhelming everything else in this red carpet. Over the last week and a half, we found out that there was a major storm that was coming in. And in fact, that storm was supposed to be the biggest one we've seen in 3 years. Well, sometimes we don't always believe what the weathermen are saying, but in this case, the weathermen were right on target. During Oscars week, the first of 2 storms that were anticipated actually started on Wednesday evening and ended Thursday morning. We got a bit of a respite, but on Friday morning, it came down in sheets, and this was the biggest of the 2 storms that were supposed to come through here. In fact, it was said, and rightly so, that this particular storm would stay with us from Friday morning all the way up through Sunday afternoon. Now remember, Sunday afternoon is when the Oscars telecast kicks off, right about 2 o'clock here on the red carpet and 5 o'clock on television. Let me show you a map of what this particular storm looked like when it landed over the Los Angeles area. You will see just how much of an impact this storm had on this particular event. And not to be too narrow, throughout the Los Angeles County area, there were flood advisories all over the place, especially in the burn areas where we had fires early this year. Most notably, we had advisories in Glendora. Just before I arrived here on the red carpet, I found that there was a major mudslide in the Glendora area that was threatening one neighborhood. So a lot was going on here besides the coverage of the Oscar ceremony. There was a lot of serious news. So when you think about that, it puts into perspective just how important this event is, but in the course of major news happening throughout the area, this was a very small part of it. If you look all around me, you'll see that everything's covered in plastic. Look at the red carpet, it's covered in plastic. Everything above us out here on Hollywood Boulevard is covered in plastic. If you listen hard at times, you can actually hear the rain hitting on top of the canopies that have been set up out here. The rain has been coming down in sheets. It hasn't been constant, but every 10 to 15 minutes or so, you'll get a massive, massive downpour. And one of the things that we see here today that we haven't seen in past ceremonies, we are seeing people going through every so often and getting the pockets of water off of the canopy so the canopy doesn't collapse. Now, if you take a look, along here, you have a lot of media that have set up along what is the south side of Hollywood Boulevard. Can you imagine what kind of disaster that would be if the rainwater were allowed to crash down or even just drip on some of that equipment? Most of that equipment is computer-based, is digital. There are AT&T cables that are feeding information in and out of this facility right now. So any bit of water is not a good thing here. You can see that some of the construction crews are out here working. And that's something, as I said earlier in my opening, that we hadn't seen before. Normally the crews were done by this time, and on a Saturday we'd just see media setting up, and in fact we'd see a number of media just practicing, getting ready for the actual red carpet broadcast that's going to take place here tomorrow. As always, we have media from around the world that's here. Look at the different outlets that are here. We have Yahoo, Telemundo, MTV, Entertainment Weekly, and so many others. You can see people, I see faces here from China, from Korea, from the Arabic nations, France, different places around here. If I look at everybody's name tag, I will definitely see a number of different people. Locally, here in Los Angeles, all of the stations are here. KCBS TV, KNBC TV, and KABC TV. If you look above the marquee of the El Capitan Theater, you will see that KABC's logo and the ABC TV network name are very prominent because the network is broadcasting this particular telecast in America. While we were down here, we were actually able to see one prominent member of the ABC television network broadcast team, and that is ABC's Robin Roberts, who you know from ABC's Good Morning America. Robin Roberts was down here with the ABC crew, and they were practicing and testing equipment and getting ready for tomorrow. She looked great. She gave a couple of interviews here and there, not too many, but she voiced her excitement about being here and being part of this particular event. As you know, Robin Roberts came through a couple of very, very difficult health challenges over the past few years, and it's good to have her back on the air with us. I've set up in a slightly different location here. I am actually standing here on Hollywood Boulevard. The camera is looking east to what would normally be Highland Avenue, but if you take a look down here, you can see a number of media from here and around the world that are practicing on the red carpet right now. In fact, if you look just to what is our north side, you will see people standing behind the Oscars backdrop, and they are doing their stand-ups, getting ready for the telecast, which is tomorrow. Now, for all of you on richgirlnetwork.tv and Newswire LA, this event is in the past. But the beauty of it all is that we're showing you what actually goes on before the show actually goes down, and we're actually showing you how much of a production in itself this event is to set up every year. You can see people coming through here right now. More and more media is bringing in equipment, personnel, and so on, and they are getting ready to set up for this amazing event. Taking a look up here in the stands over here, if you look to the north, are where spectators sit every year. And in fact, the stands over here are very, very sought after by people who want to see the stars come down the red carpet on their way into the Dolby Theater. In order to get a seat up there in the stands, from what I understand, it is done on a basic lottery system. People put their names in, they find out if they got a seat or not, and if they're lucky, they're up there cheering the stars as they come in to the Dolby Theater. One thing we just mentioned is the Dolby Theater. The Dolby Theater is where the Academy Awards are done from year to year. Now, many people who have followed this over the past few years remember this particular theater as the Kodak Theater. Well, Kodak went into bankruptcy a few years ago, and they decided to give up their naming rights to this particular facility. Taking it over are Dolby Sound Systems, which is also a very legendary name in movie sound and movie production. This particular facility was actually built for the Academy Awards. The Hollywood Highland Center contains a lot of retail, a lot of different other shops. Up until this point, the Academy Awards had been held at a number of different facilities. Some of them include the Pantages Theater, the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, and probably their most famous venue and their longest running venue, the Shrine Auditorium near downtown Los Angeles. The Shrine Auditorium was and is an older facility here in the Los Angeles area. In fact, the Shrine has been around since roughly the 1930s in one form or another. The current Shrine Auditorium is actually the second building built on that site. The first one burned down in a major fire decades ago. But when this particular event was being held at the Shrine Auditorium, it was definitely much harder to bring in the infrastructure, like all of the cameras, all the crews, all of the different people you see here today. And actually, because the facility was so inadequate for hosting this particular event, it was considered that this event, the Academy Awards, might move to New York. That was something that the people here in Los Angeles didn't want to see, and the government stepped in. The government partnered with private business to build what you see here, the Hollywood and Highland Center, and that fortunately kept the Academy Awards in Hollywood. And let's take a look at Hollywood from just outside of this compound. What you see is an image coming from the corner of Highland and Hollywood. Yes, you can see what it looks like from the outside. You can see the encasement of the entire red carpet under this particular canopy, and you can see that Highland and Hollywood is closed. The closure runs west for about 2 blocks until Orange Avenue. Until that time, until March 2nd, I believe, actually March 3rd at 6 a.m., this stretch of Hollywood Boulevard will be closed because you have to remember the crews after the event have to break it down. As we stand here on the red carpet, one of the things that I am wearing right now that I actually can't show you is my Oscars badge. The Oscars credentials allows us to go to many different events that are being held in connection with the Academy Awards. Joy Paris, I am sure, used her Oscars badge to get into all the parties, the gifting suites, and different things she attended this particular week. Well, the Oscars badge is one of the things that it's a great piece of memorabilia to have, and I got to tell you, I've got the other one that I used when I was covering the event the first time, and I've got this one. It'll be in my collection for a long time. It's a very high honor, among other things, for a reporter to be able to cover this particular event. But we can't show it to you on camera. In fact, we can't take a picture of the badge. We can't post it to Facebook, Twitter, or any of the usual events because the badge is actually the property, even after it's over, of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. And you're going to see those people with those badges turned over for a reason, because if the Academy were to find out that the badge is on TV or something like that, it would be a problem, and we'd be led out of here probably by security and taken off of the list permanently. This is one of those events where you don't want to be taken out forcibly for any reason because, again, like I said, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to cover this. Oh, yeah, but you can't see me.
That's fine. Just put them inside your jacket while you're recording. When you're done, just take them out.
Sorry about that. This is Chin Thomasanksi of Newswire LA and RichGirlNetwork.tv, and here I am on the red carpet just 24 hours before the Oscar ceremony is to take place here in Hollywood, California. Speaking on a purely personal note, as a filmmaker myself, it's always a big hope that we'll all end up getting here to the Academy Awards and being recognized by our peers for the movies that we make and produce for the world. No matter what kind of filmmaker you are, whether you're scripted, dramatic, action, adventure oriented, or if you're documentary oriented, or if you're a foreign filmmaker, being nominated for an Oscar is definitely a very high honor. And for those who are just simply nominated but don't win the award, they will tell you that it's a very high honor. A nomination for an Academy Award actually takes your marketability up very high. And that's one thing, too, that the filmmakers, actors, directors, writers, and so on prize in this particular event. If you can look across the way and see that everything is starting to go up here, look at all of the cameras, look at all of the lights, look at all of the crews that are working here. You can definitely see that the energy is definitely here. Everybody's a little bit behind schedule, but again, that's because of the rain and the weather and all the different things that have combined this week to make this a little bit more of a difficult event to put together. If you look at the Oscar statues themselves, which line this usual walk, all of them are either near the entrance to the Dolby Theater or they are out here, but they are covered in plastic. Everything out here has to be covered or it will be ruined by the heavy rains we're having here in the Los Angeles area. We're about to wrap up our coverage of this particular event, which is Oscar's Red Carpet. This particular event caps off a whole week, and really probably 2 weeks of events that have been taking place around the city of Los Angeles and the county. It has been my pleasure to bring this portion of the coverage to you from the red carpet. If you want to see what happened during the week leading up to the Academy Awards, visit us at Newswire LA or at richgirlnetwork.tv, and you can see the footage from both myself and Joy Paris. And we're going to shift gears and head due south to the campus of the University of Southern California, where the 26th Annual Scripter Awards took place inside of the Edward Doheny Library. What are the Scripter Awards? It's an honor bestowed annually by the Friends of the USC Libraries in recognition of the best adaptation of printed word into film and is given to both the author and screenwriter. Many of the screenwriters and authors who were nominated for a Scripter Award were also nominated for 2014's Academy Award. A win on that night could have been an indicator of what would happen at the big show. In this case, we didn't know it, but one of the night's attendees we had the pleasure of interviewing took a big honor on Oscar night. You can see it only here on Newswire LA and richgirlnetwork.tv. Let's head down to the red carpet. Scott, how you doing tonight? Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for talking to me. This is cool.
How does it feel being here tonight at an event that honors the screenwriter? The screenwriter is sometimes not always honored. You know, the star gets honored, the director gets honored, sometimes the screenwriter gets forgotten.
Yeah, it's really fortunate. USC is an amazing institution. It's a place that I wish I had the guts to apply to when I was a kid. Happy to be back. Being represented with my co-writer and the novelist Tim Tharp, who we adapted his book, and it's really, really gratifying that people like the project.
Tell me a little bit about what it's like to adapt a film from a book or other existing material, because sometimes that's not as easy as creating an original screenplay.
No, it's true. I think that in the case of this one, it's a book that we fell in love with, and we wanted to sort of be the gatekeepers of the project, so that the people who watch the movie who might not have read the book kind of come away with the same experience that we had when we read it, and then hopefully even drive some people to read the book if they haven't afterwards. And this one is it's a story of a kid who has a lot of growing up to do. He's telling the story, and you don't realize until about halfway through that he's not the most reliable narrator. And that was a fun sort of exercise for us, and we're really just again super excited that people liked it, because you never know.
What projects do you have in development now?
The next thing that I think people will see is it comes out in June. It's an adaptation of John Green's Fault in Our Stars book, which is a huge best-selling book. A lot of expectations, so it's a scary thing, but we're really proud of the movie, and I'm excited for people to see it.
All right. Scott, thank you for joining us. Have fun tonight, and we'll see you throughout the evening.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Nancy, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hi, how are you?
All right. How does it feel to be here on this night where the screenwriter is honored?
It's really nice. I'm really thrilled, and that Maisie was noticed and honored this way. It's really nice.
It was kind of a small independent film that, in a way that it was not a Hollywood blockbuster, made by the studios. Talk to me about the satisfaction of doing those kinds of stories, not as opposed to doing the big Hollywood blockbuster, but talk to me about doing a story like What Maisie Knew.
Well, it's very much a character story. It was the point of view of a child, which is you don't think of as a big blockbuster movie. But I think the great thing about it was to keep it in the point of view of the child. I think that's what I loved about doing it most.
What projects do you have on the slate right now?
I have a big kooky comedy that has nothing to do with a film like Maisie at all. So
you decided to change up the genre on us.
It's a big change. It's totally a big, big change.
Well, have a good time tonight, and we'll see you throughout the evening.
Thank you so much.
This was our interview with actress Sarah Clark. This was an interview that I classified on that night as being one of the most fun that I could do. She was here on that night supporting another writer who was a nominee for a Scripter Award. When I got her, I couldn't resist taking advantage of the opportunity to talk to her about her tenure on Fox's popular series 24, starring Kiefer Sutherland. I will admit, I am an avowed fan of the series and enjoyed those early seasons featuring her as part of the cast in the role of Nina Myers. When Miss Clark arrived at my spot on the red carpet, I said to her, "Thank you for joining us tonight."
Sure.
You know, the first thing I'm going to say to you is I don't like you.
Why?
Because I remember you from season 1 of 24.
Oh, yes.
Talk to me a little bit about what it was like being a part of a groundbreaking show like that, and what the writing means in those types of series and movies.
Right. Well, it was very exciting. It was my first TV show, so I didn't really know what to expect, and I was really, really pleasantly surprised by how open they were to trying to, they were there to put all the pieces together, but then when it came down to how the characters spoke, they were really open to everyone working together to kind of find the voice of each character. And when I came back for the second and third seasons, it was in a much more condensed manner, and it was really great because we'd set that groundwork in the first season of who Nina was, and then she changed so much that it was at least good that we had a beginning that made sense. So.
You've moved on from that. You've gone into a successful franchise, Twilight. Talk to me a little bit about that, and talk to me about being here tonight for this particular event.
Yes, well, I'm here to support my friend Carol Cartwright, who wrote that beautiful script, What Maisie Knew. So I think the written word is very important because it's what pulls the actor in from the first minute that they read it. So I'm very happy to be honoring him tonight and to be here to sort of see everybody else. So it's fun.
And very quickly, what have you got in the development slate? What projects are we going to see in next?
Oh, actually, another really well-written project. AMC has a pilot called Line of Sight that I did with Jonathan Demme, and we're in sort of a holding pattern right now while they figure out how it's all going to come together, but we shot the pilot. It was really fun.
Sarah Clark, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Talk to me about what it's like to direct from a really finely written script. That's what we're here tonight about, is scripts. Talk to me a little bit about that.
And it's a pleasure to direct a movie that has this beautifully written script, because one part of your work is done. You still have a million other things to do, but at least you know that the feelings between the characters are there. They're grounded. There's emotion. There's movement. The acts are working. And so my friend Carol Cartwright wrote a script. He's nominated for one of them. It's not up there. Okay, What Maisie Saw, and it's a beautiful adaptation of Henry James' novel. And so I'm hoping he wins tonight.
And I know you answered this question earlier, but what else can we see coming from you this year or in the future?
Oh yeah, well I did. Let's see, I directed a pilot last year for CBS, and it got picked up, and so they've made like 12 episodes. That's called Reckless. That's kind of fun. That'll come out, and then I'm right now in pre-production on 3 different movies, and I hope one of them goes like soon, hopefully this summer. Yeah.
What is it like multitasking like that?
It makes you a little nuts. You're always trying to put all your love into one thing and grow that one and grow that one, and you hope that the other people will be supportive of you, like the producers, and you hope the right actors jump on at the right time. So it's kind of intense.
Well, Catherine Hardwick, I know you're running tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
If my interview with Sarah Clark was classified as being the most fun, I would have to classify my interview with screenwriter John Ridley as the most significant of the night. John Ridley would go on to win the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay for the film 12 Years a Slave. A footnote to all of this was that he won the Scripter Award for the evening. It was a foreshadowing of what was to come on the big show. And now, John Ridley, screenwriter, 12 Years a Slave. A screenwriter with humor.
Well, I started in sitcoms way back in the day, so I try to hold on to it. It's been an amazing experience, and I've really kind of discovered a lot of emotions I didn't have. So to come out on the other end, Look, Solomon came through it with his dignity, with love, and with appreciation for life. So if I can come out of all of this with that same sort of feeling, then I consider myself blessed.
You did one of the most powerful movies of the year. 12 Years a Slave. Talk to me a little bit about what that feels like when you look at it being honored by the Academy and everything like that, the honors you're going to have here tonight.
The thing that really surprised me when I started this whole project, I was ignorant of Solomon and his life. And so the fact that now I was part of a group of people who have helped restore this story to a rightful place of prominence, that makes me feel very, very good. I think the film is beautiful. I think the performances are wonderful. But knowing that a lot of people like me who did not know this individual's name, even if they did not see the film, they know his name. And 5 years from now, 10 years from now, people will show this film to their friends, their family. That is very, very special. So all this is wonderful. The accolades are wonderful. The camaraderie with the other writers is really wonderful. But I have to say that knowing that you're part of something that's a whole lot bigger than yourself, you get a little bit older in life, and those are the things that you think about, and those are the things that touch you.
Young screenwriters. A lot of them are trying to get into the industry, and as we know, the industry is a little bit tight and sometimes a little bit, it encloses itself. Yeah. What is your advice, being a working screenwriter, to other young screenwriters trying to make it in this business?
If I were going to say anything, I would just say write. Not everybody, oftentimes people are waiting for a paycheck or waiting for permission to do something. 12 Years a Slave was a spec project. It was something that I got involved in because I thought the story was powerful, and it was something that touched me and moved me and educated me about this era. But it was something that I did because I thought it was worth doing, and great things have come from it. So don't wait for permission. Don't wait for that check always. Certainly, be mindful of the work that you're doing because you're only worth what you say yes to. To me, Solomon's story was worth saying yes to, and it's made me a better person. Whether or not the film had ever gotten made, the things that I learned about him and myself in the process, it was much worthwhile.
What's coming up for you?
Well, I'm very happy that I have a film that I wrote and directed that is having its U.S. premiere at the South by Southwest Film Festival, and will be out in theaters in May. It's called All Is By My Side. It's about the year that Jimi Hendrix spent in London. Andre Benjamin is in it, Imogen Poots, Haley Atwell. It's a very special film, because I think the story and the emotional velocity it has is very special, but also the performances and just how he went about it, and doing a biopic that is just about a year and not cradle to grave, I think is really, really special. So I'm very excited about that. And nice to have your eye on something else. This is amazing, all of this, but it's nice to be thinking about something else that's coming up. It's really special.
Outstanding. Thank you for joining us. That's it for this Newswire LA Rich Girl Network.tv broadcast. We thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Chin Thomas Sangsi, saying so long from the red carpet of the Academy Awards 2014. To follow everything Newswire LA, look us up on Facebook and Twitter at Newswire LA. We will see you back here next time, and until then, good night.